Hello guys, welcome back. This is your third lecture on the chapter Human Health and Diseases, and this lecture will be basically on immune responses. I'll keep this lecture a bit short because we'll start a very new topic from the next lecture. I think you're revising the previous lectures. Alright, so let's start our today's lecture. Okay, so allergy. I think it's a very familiar word for you. Allergy is just because of antigens in your environment. It can be a pollutant also. Like sometimes you can imagine a situation, you are in a dusty room and you start sneezing very abruptly and heavily. That is because your windpipe gets invaded by dust particles, or there might be some pollen grains or something like that that cause such harsh response of the body. Now we are here to study why this response is there. This is all because of immune system, that is to protect you. When you sneeze very harshly, the particle gets removed from your immune system. All right, sorry, from your windpipe. Okay, now let me read out what I have what I am going to explain you. Now what is it is that it's the exaggerated response of the immune system. All right, allergy is the exaggerated response of the immune system. It is due to the antigens in the environment to which our body responds very harshly. All right, our body responds very harshly to those antigens. The key factor that you need to remember is that the chemical elements involved for this kind of allergic reaction, all right, that is histamine and serotonin. These are the two chemicals that are released from mast cells. Now what are mast cells? I think you know, because it's there in your class 11th human physiology chapter regarding blood circulation, or if it is not, I'll tell you in upcoming lectures. I'll preparing a lecture on that also. Okay, so histamine and serotonin are released from mast cells. For the moment, just remember, mast cells are certain specific cells in our body that are there for production of these chemical elements. Okay, so these two things, histamine and serotonin. Histamine is basically a vasodilator. I think you remember what a vasodilator is. Yes, which dilates the blood vessels. Okay, now I think you remember the immunoglobulins that we discussed in the previous lecture. Yes, okay. So the immunoglobulin responsible for the allergic reaction is the immunoglobulin E, IgE. Remember this. You will get, there's a high chance of question on this particular thing, like which immunoglobulin responsible for allergic reaction. Okay. Next is vaccination. This is also a very familiar topic. Just I'm brushing you up about what the thing is. Vaccination is based upon the memory of your immune system, as I've explained you in previous lectures in very short words. Okay, now the antigenic, what exactly happens is the first response of body for that pathogen stored into memory. Okay, what exactly happens is that at first some antigenic proteins of pathogen, okay, or inactivated or weakened pathogens are introduced into your body through injection. Now what happens due to this? Your body gets invaded by a pathogen. Okay, now what will your body do? Obviously it will defend itself. How will it defend itself? By, as I explained you in the previous lectures, and I'll be explaining you today also. Yes, it will produce certain antibodies, and those antibodies will be the first response of the body. And as we know that there is a memory system in the immune system, okay, that is memory T cells, okay, memory B cells and memory T cells. I think you remember that. Yes, correct. Yeah, those cells remember what is happening, okay, how the body is responding for that particular pathogen, and that encounter gets stored in the memory. Now suppose in future the same pathogen attacks on your body, then what is going to happen? The body will respond very abruptly and very in a very fast way. It will kill that pathogen. All right, so what I have written is that this is the reason on second encounter with same pathogen the anamnestic response is stronger. Okay, what is anamnestic response? This is the second response. Okay, first is your primary response, that is slow. Obviously it will be slow because it is the first encounter, and the secondary response, the anamnestic response, is always the stronger one because your body knows how to respond. Okay, clear. Now, regarding vaccination, developments in vaccination. See, this topic is not much touched in NCERT, but an example is given. And to understand that, you need to understand this at first, because the base is not given, it is directly written. There in NCERT, you'll find this. Okay, let me explain you first. Now, developments in vaccination. Now, what should be the basic principle regarding development in vaccination? That is to reduce the risk, okay, to reduce the risk of several threats from the weakened pathogen. Sometimes it might be possible that that weakened pathogen that was entered into the body in the process of vaccination is not killed by our immune system. Then what happens? It will cause harm. So we are heading towards development of such kind of vaccines which can protect us from such potential risks. So we are having several generations of vaccine. Okay, at first we are having first generation vaccine. That is simply weakened pathogen are introduced. Okay, then second generation vaccine. What happens here is, now inside, suppose considering a bacteria responsive, that is pathogenic bacteria, inside it there is certain protein structure where the antigen is there. Okay, now to introduction of that particular protein structure, the vaccine in which that protein antigen specific one is used is the second generation vaccine. Okay, the third generation vaccine is more specific. In that protein antigen, the DNA is used. The DNA is used. Okay, that is a third generation vaccine. Okay, now in NCERT this example is very important. Hepatitis B is produced from yeast. Okay, it is a DNA based third generation vaccine. All right. Okay, so now here we are at as how attack on an invader takes place. Okay, so this is a very important topic, so please understand it very clearly. Now, how this process occurs. At first, suppose a pathogen enters your body. Okay, now it is in the extracellular fluid. I think you are clear about what extracellular fluid is. Outside the cell. Okay, now inside the cell there are elements like your all the warriors of your immune system. Okay, so they are inside those leukocytes. Okay, leuko means immune system. Please remember this, there everything is linked in biology. Okay, so if you remember, it will be very easy for you. Okay, now at first the vasodilation takes place. The vessels near about that extracellular fluid gets dilated. Okay, then to those dilated vessels, on the surface of those dilated vessels, adherence of the leukocytes takes place. Leukocytes get stick to those surfaces. Then diapedesis takes place. Diapedesis is simply the movement of the leukocytes from the surface of the blood vessel to the extracellular environment. Okay, now the leukocyte comes out. Then what happens is that chemotaxis. Chemo is related to chemical, taxis is motion. Okay, so the movement towards bacteria, who is moving? Obviously your leukocyte is moving towards the bacteria. Okay, and what are those chemicals towards which this movement is taking place? There are certain chemotactic factors. I think you remember something called as kines. Yeah, leukocytes. I think you remember that term that I used in previous lecture. So that is secreted over there, due to which this chemotaxis process takes place. See, everything is linked. Okay, so it's better if you go line by line. Okay, don't jump off in biology. Okay, next, I think you are clear. At first vasodilation took place, then adhesion took place, then diapedesis took place, then chemotaxis took place. Okay, the chemotaxis, be clear, movement towards bacteria and ECF. Who is guiding that movement? The chemical. From where the chemical came, that are certain thing released by certain other factors that are something called as leukocynes. Okay, so the movement towards bacteria and ECF is taking place. This is chemotaxis. All right, next we are having, yes, phagocytosis. I think you know what phagocytosis is. Phago is eating up, cyto means cell, so eating up of cells. Now that bacteria, that invader that has entered into the ECF, the extracellular fluid, is now going to get killed. Okay, in phagocytosis there are further three processes. Okay, at first adherence is taking place. Like, what is adherence? Obviously attachment. That is, adherence is attachment of infective agent to membrane of phagocyte. Okay, Please remember this: attachment of infective agent to membrane of phagocyte. Okay. Next, ingestion. The pathogen is engulfed by that warrior cell. Okay. At last, intracellular killing of pathogen. Then certain chemical substances called as hydrolytes. Again, lights means splitting up. Okay. It will kill that pathogen via using hydrolytes, and that is called as intracellular killing of pathogen. Is that clear to you? So this is phagocytosis. All right. There are two ways in which your body could have responded. Okay. After chemotaxis, either it can go for phagocytic response, or it can go for a non-phagocytic response. I told you about phagocytic response. In case of non-phagocytic response, what happens is the leukocyte that has come out makes spores on the pathogen. Okay. Then what happens? Water enters into the pathogen, the cell swells up and gradually bursts, and so it dies. So these are two approach. It depends what your body thinks at that time, what your immune system does at that time. Okay. And what kind of pathogen is there. So this was all about the process. Okay. So what we did today is we come to know about what allergy is, different kinds of vaccination, okay, and how the attack on an invader takes place. Of all these topics, I tell you, always remember how an attack on an invader takes place. Okay, all the step by step processes and what is the meaning of each process, because this is the potential part which has this is the part which has potential to many questions. Okay, so you need to remember this. Okay. So we'll be meeting soon in the next lecture, that will be on some common human diseases. Okay. And that's really very important part for your pre-medical studies. Okay. So keep learning, enjoy biology, and stay tuned to the video lectures. Thank you so much.